Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? It's been a very long time since I've done a watch review. Simply because I just haven't been buying anything. Right? The last couple years, my priorities have shifted, and well, straight out was just starting a family and stuff, and it took a lot out of me. And things start to your priorities start to shift. Gone are the days of just being single and spending money on yourself and buying watches and you know just having a really good time, right? But the time has come. It's been many years since I bought a new watch, and I'm gonna reveal it to you right now. It is the Rolex Deep Sea. I I don't know. I don't know what it is that made me decide to pull the trigger on this watch. Um, I had been, I when this watch first came out, I had been, I guess, trashing it a little bit, saying that it's just too big, right? I guess that was, when I started into watches, it was everybody was into the big watch craze, right? Everyone wanted an oversized watch. Now I find things have started to tone down a little bit, and yeah, but I get it. This is not the biggest watch I've ever owned, believe it or not. The biggest watch I ever owned was actually the first luxury watch which I bought ever on Chrono24. I bought it from a seller in Spain, and it was a Breitling Navitimer GMT, and that watch was 46 millimeters. Right, that was back in 2012. I forgot what I paid for it. Probably like 3,600 or something like that, Canadian, and I managed to flip it for a profit of a couple $100, maybe $500-600. And that watch was really way too big. I've also owned a Lindverdlin, forgot what it's, Lindverdlin GMT watch. Is a Danish brand watch, and I wore that watch quite frequently. It was okay. So I know that I can pull off a 44 mil watch. But after I sold that watch, the biggest watch that I ever had was probably the Omega Speedmaster at 42 millimeters. And ever since then, I just stuck to 40, which is a great size. 40 millimeters is a great size. All my watches currently are 40 millimeters and under. And so I guess I bought this watch because, sometimes I want to feel a little, just a little extreme, right? Right now I'm in the trenches of dealing with toddlers and infants. So, well, to me, that's a pretty extreme, that's a pretty extreme environment, right? And so the deep sea. So let's talk about it, yeah. Because I didn't just pull the trigger on this, right? I had to do, I was doing research. I wanted I guess a bigger watch, right? Something a little more outstanding, with a little bit more wrist presence. And so obviously, your choices were the deep sea, and there's the SD43. And within the deep sea range, right now they have different generations. I've been kind of out of the loop for a bit, right? But in 2018, they came up with the 12660, and now the current iteration is the 13660. And of course, everybody was saying that the 12660 and the current generation looks a lot more proportional, right? The big knock on this watch, the 11660, the original design of the deep sea was that it was too top heavy, and the bracelet was too thin. It was too narrow. A lot of people complain about the tapering of the watch, right? How it's 44 here and it tapers down to, I guess, 21 for the bracelet. So now it's 22 at the bracelet at the current generation, and the clasp is also a little wider. I'm not sure. I think it's 18. And so a lot of people were complaining, right, about the wearability of the watch. And all I have to say that it fits pretty well. Right? I do not have the extension on this bracelet. It fits really well, but right, this watch has to be worn a little bit snug and high, right, beyond the ulnar bone. Right, like if you were to wear it a little low, then yeah, it just it kind of wobbles, right? It is top heavy, but if you have it a little fitted, beyond the ulnar bone, it fits fine. It's great. Of course, it is top heavy, but this is a heavy watch, right? It's not it's not sleek like a Daytona or my Yachtmaster, but it feels nice, right? Like there's presence, right? And now that I own it, I get it. The reason why I picked this generation, the first one, as opposed to the 12660. Of course, these cost less money, but not by much, right? Compared to the 12660, with the squared off lugs, right? I was kind of going back and forth, right? Do I spend a little bit more? Maybe about, I'd say $1,500 to $2,000 Canadian more for the 12660, or do I settle for the 11660? And I realized I wasn't settling, because I actually like the tapering and how see how the end link kind of protrudes, right? It's not flush. It's not flush with the lugs, right? A lot of people don't like that, right? They feel that it should be kind of like, I guess filed down, right? To make everything smooth and svelte. But let's not forget, this is an extreme watch. This is a watch built with the intention of going to extreme situations and conditions, and so it should look a little rough on the edges, right? It should look edgy. It shouldn't look like a marshmallow. It shouldn't look smooth, refined, elegant. Right? So I really like that it kind of steps up, right? There's depth. There's depth to the lugs. Look over there, right? There's 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, and then steps back down. So this is not supposed to be a refined watch, right? And it's not, and it doesn't look refined, right? It looks beastie. It looks it's just his presence, and I really like it. So for me, I think they had it right on the no, don't get me wrong, right? The current generation of the deep sea, yes, it's more proportional. It looks really great. It looks perfect. I feel like it looks a little hockey puckish, right? It looks like a little bit like a puck on the wrist, but it's definitely smooth, right? It's elegant, it's refined. However, that's not what the deep sea is, right? It's too thick to be refined. It has to look edgy. It has to look non-agreeable. It has to look a little crazy, right? You got to be crazy to want to go into situations and environments that take you 3,900 meters and beyond, in down to the depths of the ocean, right? It has to look a little out there, right? A little bit extreme. It's an extreme watch, and so I get it. This watch was designed it came out in 2008, and I don't want to compare cars, right? But everybody has seen a Porsche Cayenne. The Porsche Cayenne also came out in 2008. And when it first came out, everybody was saying, this is such an ugly car and whatever. But if you look at those first generation Cayennes today, they have a certain charm to it. It's almost like it's almost like come back full circle in terms of design. It doesn't look out of place at all. Right, and then of course the second generation Cayenne, they toned it down. Right, it looks great too. Right, the second generation Cayennes, fantastic looking cars. Right, a lot more sleek, a lot more, not doesn't look as aggressive. Looks a lot more agreeable to the mass market, and I think that's why Rolex also decided to change the dimensions and the design of the end links. Is to kind of appease a lot of potential Rolex purchasers and naysayers about the design, and they did so. And I think the current iteration of the Deep Sea looks absolutely beautiful too, but I will not say that it looks better than the first generation. It just looks more refined. It looks a little more proportional. It looks a little more svelte. Looks a lot more smooth and elegant. But that's not what this watch is all about, right? This watch is an extreme watch, and also one of the big reasons why I pulled the trigger on the Deep Sea is really the crystal, right? It just looks like a vintage piece with a vintage plexiglass, right? Look how it kind of refracts the light. Refraction, I guess people call it distortion, but it's really refraction. I believe that's the correct term, yeah. And it's, oh my goodness, just the feel of the bezel rotating. There's nothing quite like it. I've had the Submariner, the 116610LN. I don't remember it feeling this crisp. Probably this exact same thing, but I don't know. This is probably the best bezel feel that I've experienced from Rolex. Yeah, obviously it's probably the same as the ceramic Submariner and the SD4000, which I helped my brother buy. The SD4K, that was also a great watch, and a lot of people really felt that was the perfect modern Rolex, the SD4000. But after holding this, after having this, in my hand, there's a reason why Rolex decided to discontinue the SD4K, SD4000 ceramic, because this watch has just made it redundant. If you want a watch at 40 mils, then you buy a Submariner, and with this in production, there was no place for the SD4K. Great watch, don't get me wrong. If you want the 40 millimeter size, and the case design is a lot more traditional than the 116610, the Submariner. I think it looks better than the Submariner for sure, but this watch, the Deep Sea, kind of displaced that, the SD4000, and that's why it's no longer, it was discontinued really quickly. and that watch is commanding quite a premium right now. Do I think it's worth it? I think, if you're looking for a sea dweller, this is the one to get. Right. So let's quickly talk about the SD43 as well, because that was also on my radar, and why I decided to go with this instead of the SD43. Of course, the SD43 was it 126600. That watch, I don't know, the Cyclops, with the Sea Dweller line, traditionally it didn't have a Cyclops, and this was the first one which they introduced a Cyclops. So I think I don't know, I don't think it's quite in line with the identity of the Sea Dweller. To me, the SD43 looks more like a super submariner. I would call it a super sub, but I guess that's what a Sea Dweller is, right? And if you're looking for an oversized watch, right, like go big or go home, don't settle for a 43 when you're looking for a big watch, right? Just go big or go home, right? I guess, that kind of thinking, you go for the Challenger, which is 50 millimeters now. That's a bit too crazy for me, right? But who knows? Maybe that'll be common and people will start rocking a 50 millimeter watch. So I just felt that, I wanted a bigger watch. Why go for the SD43 when this is around, and go for a 44 mil watch, and it's absolutely beautiful, right? It's a great watch. What else there's something else I wanted to talk about this deep sea, but yeah, SD43 is a great watch too. I think if the movement, yes, the movement, very, very important as well. So this is the tried and true tested movement. I also have it on my Yachtmaster. It's a 3135. So the current generation of Rolexes, they all house the 3235 movements, and I'm sure they're great movements. 70-hour power reserve. I think that's the big selling point. And but I'm not too sure about its reliability or whatever. I'm sure it's fine, but I've been also researching a little bit, and a lot of collectors say they have certain issues with it. In terms of serviceability, I know I'm hearing that people say that you can only take it to the Rolex service center. Independents have a little bit of trouble servicing them, or just servicing costs are just a little higher. But I don't know if that's true. Right? I haven't experienced ownership of the newer generation Rolex, but this is a tried and true, tested movement. So I think that's the sweet spot for Rolexes, the 6-digit 11 series. In fact, all my Rolexes are of that generation, 11 something, right? I got a 116520 Daytona, I got a 116622 Yachtmaster, and I have this one, the 11660 Deep Sea. And no regrets. It's a beautiful, beautiful watch. Of course, it has the glide lock, which is just ingenious, and you kind of need it, right? I also realize, the glide lock is necessary for the deep sea, right? Because it has to really fit well on your wrist, otherwise it's just kind of dangle and swing all over the place. So this video has gone on a little longer than I anticipated, but I think this is the best value ceramic modern Rolex right now there is in the market. This costs less than a no date sub This costs less than a Submariner. It costs less than the SD43. It costs less than the Yachtmaster. And it shouldn't, right? This should not cost less than a no-date sub. You know, okay, I get it with the no-date sub. The minimalistic movement, and right, the idea, right, just minimalistic. Yeah, it's a little more wearable, but if you're looking for a Submariner kind of watch, right, a dive watch from Rolex, a modern dive watch, this is probably the best value watch that you can buy right now. Yeah, hands down. Which is also why I pulled the trigger. You know, I think it's good buying right now. Anyway, have a good day. Bye.